Hey, Niall.
Hey man, how are you?
I'm good. How are you? You all right?
I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
It's perfect.
How's things?
Yeah, good. Thanks so much for doing this.
No, thanks for asking me. Thank you. It's an honor.
I'm excited. I was saying just before you got on that I'm excited about this one because it can go so many different directions from like health and fitness to running to boxing to like doing Hell Week. Like there's you have a lot going on, man.
Yeah, thank you. So do you though. You have all your groups and
Yeah,
PT.
just try to keep busy, you know.
Yeah.
So let's start with how did you get started? So like growing up, boxing was boxing and running were your two main things.
Yeah, so I was quite an active. I'll try to get the camera sorted. I was quite an active, I suppose, fit kid. Always like out running and climbing and getting up to mischief and stuff like that. And then I think boxing was probably the first thing that really grabbed me. I was quite late to it. Like I would have played like soccer and Gaelic and all sorts of sports growing up. Um, but I was never. People give out to me when I say this. I've no talent whatsoever. I've absolutely zero talent in life, but I have a really high work ethic. And I kind of found like with soccer and stuff that will only get you so far because there's obviously so many other players. But in boxing is one of the sports that like work ethic can actually really make a massive difference. Because you can outwork much better fighters. Like I honestly like people always say, "Oh yeah, right," and I say like I'm terrible, absolutely shit. Like, but I'll outwork you. Like, so it's one of those sports that work rate does kind of translate into some kind of success. And I always really liked that element of it. So yeah, when I was boxing, as I said, I wasn't any good, so I had to work really hard to learn all like the steps and the moves and the techniques, which meant that now as a coach, that's my benefit because I know them all. Like I know every little tiny step. Whereas, say for example, someone that was really natural, they might know how to do it, but not know, or sorry, they can do it, but they don't know how to do it. Same like with like say Olympic weightlifting. Like I'm sure there's some people that can just throw the bar over their head, like, but they can't break down all the little tiny steps involved. So my benefit as a boxing coach was how crap I was as a boxer. Um, so yeah, that's kind of boxing coaching then was is kind of my career now, I suppose. Like so that's how I've gotten to where I am really.
Cool. And you were doing that before you were you coaching and boxing before you ever started the health and fitness route?
Yeah, way before. Like so I would have I'd have I suppose a lot of years of coaching under my belt, like because I was coaching in the boxing club from when I was like 19, 20. So I've about 13 years of actual coaching experience under my belt, like so and like that's you know you used to do all the kids class over in the academy, like, and I really think like if you can coach kids, you can coach, like, you know what I mean? Like that's it's really easy to coach adults who are paying to come to your gym. They want to be there. But like if you can grasp the attention of a kid who maybe suffers with a little bit of kind of attention things like that, or if you can get them doing things, I think you can coach anybody. Like so if you cut your teeth coaching kids, you're gonna go really far, like as a coach, I think you might agree with that, yeah?
Yeah, for sure, definitely. If you can keep like, however, I don't know how many kids you have, but like 10 to 15 kids at a time, if you can keep all their attention, you're like adults are easy after that.
Yeah, it's so easy. Like, and I suppose with a boxing club as well, we would have had a lot of really varied demographic. Like, we either have like kids and adults, boys and girls. We would have got a lot of Eastern Europeans at the time, a lot of travelers. And it's just like this melting pot of different demographics right there. And again, just trying to manage 20, 30 kids there, like it was
That's a lot
really
going
great
on.
experience.
That's a
Like,
lot of different
yeah,
backgrounds coming together.
and like you know some people on their on day one and other people who are Irish champions and European champions, and like you're trying to like you know make sure everyone is stimulated and challenged to the right level as well, like so um that I would have coached there for quite a long time. So then that led me I went and got my qualifications then after that, after college, and then that kind of led me more into kind of more formal work, like, so in the gym then.
Cool. And you, so in the health and fitness industry, you worked for someone else before Unit 3, right? Like a gym
My
in Ace or something?
first, yeah. My first job in the health and fitness industry was actually quite unique. It was I worked for Dublin Simon, which was a homeless charity. I worked in an addiction treatment center.
Wow.
And yeah, I set up a service in essentially a rehab clinic called the Health and Well-being Service, and we used to like take people who were trying to recover from addiction and do like exercise, nutrition, and like healthy lifestyle. And we noticed that anybody who was kind of interacting with the service had a much longer recovery in terms of their sobriety. And we noticed the link between exercise and well-being and actually staying sober, and um obviously all the mental health benefits as well as the physical health benefits. Like, so it was quite a unique experience.
Yeah.
Being like, yeah, the only homeless personal trainer in the world, or personal trainer to homeless people in the world. Um and then, but what I noticed was I was working and living in Dublin at the time, but I was coming home every night to Nice to coach the boxing club like 3, 4 nights a week and on the weekends. And I realized that I was getting the most kick out of my day at that time. Like, traveling home to work in the boxing club was just, I used to live for that. Like, I'd be in work all day, and even though I really enjoyed it, I just couldn't wait till 7 o'clock came, because at the time I got to coach the boxers. And I suppose I kind of realized, why are you living for 2 hours of your day, like, when you could just make that your whole day? It sounds a bit mad. It sounds so simplistic, I suppose. So then, yeah, I just made that my whole life. I just moved home, back to Nice, because that way I could coach the boxers twice a day. And then I just got a job in in a local gym, just to kind of to fund that, really, like, so. I worked for someone else for about 2 years, and then went off and we set up Unit 3 from that then. So
Cool. What, like,
yeah.
that's a crazy, that must have been a crazy experience, the Dublin Simon community. Like, I never knew that story about you. That's mad.
Yeah. Like, if you think about it, I suppose there's so many people that, like, these people would have drank for or did drugs or whatever it was for, like, I don't know, 10, 12 hours a day, like, and then all of a sudden, I suppose it's like now, it's like the lockdown now, you have 10 extra hours a day that you didn't have before. Like, what are you going to do with it? You have a choice now, like, you can sit around and be bored, or you can learn a new skill. And what they all chose to do was, maybe take up running or cycling or a gym or boxing or something that they'd never done before. So it's actually very, very similar. There's lots of parallels to what's happening at the moment, like, but the people that did something positive with their time back then had a positive outcome, whereas the people that sat around and didn't kind of fill that time with anything positive tended to, relapse much quicker, like, so. I suppose there's definitely lessons for now, isn't there?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And do you think that experience helped you translate to, like, your boxing coaching or even coaching health and fitness? Like,
Yeah, again, like, if you're working with people who are physically not as, like, look, I work with a boxer called Gary Cully, like, and I can throw anything at him. Like, he's the most, suppose, physically dexterous person, and, like, he can do anything. So he's quite easy to coach, because, you can try, and whereas trying to coach someone who maybe has a lot of inhibitions in their movements and has never done these things before, like, if you can get them, again, it comes down to breaking down all the techniques or moves step by step and being so patient. Um, and if you can do that for them, I think, like, working at elite level in coaching is so easy. Like, it's really, really easy. Like, because these guys are just amazing athletes. But so if you can, work with kids and work with people that aren't as, coordinated and balanced, I think that really, really stands to you then as well. And especially if you have to learn, like, patience is a massive part of coaching. It's not like,
for sure.
you know,
Um,
um,
yeah, I think before we dive into, like, Unit 3 and health and fitness, just we're talking about boxing. Colin sent in a question and asked about the translation from the gym to boxing. And I think it was sparked by videos of, like, Tyson Fury and McGregor and putting up exercise videos, and they moved terribly. So his question was, And you kind of touched on it already. Would you take the better athlete or would you take the better boxer? And you kind of talked about hard work a little bit already.
So what's the question? Sorry.
Two questions. Sorry. How much do you think like gym work translates to boxing? And then would you take someone who is a better athlete and works hard in the gym, or would you take someone who's more talented?
I'll answer the second question first. I'll always take someone who works harder. Like for me, I think it's because of how I was, like, with obviously a lack of talent. I think waste of talent is actually a sin. Like it hurts my heart seeing wasted talent. So I would not be able to work with a really, really talented athlete who was just fucking around. Sorry, am I allowed to curse?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
All right, yeah. Sorry, who was messing around and not showing up to training, and not fulfilling their potential. Like I've no time for that whatsoever. Even though you're probably walking away as a coach from a lot of money in that situation. Like, you know, if I was, obviously we don't know the situations fully, like, but when obviously McGregor was going through whatever it was, like as a coach, I wouldn't have put up with that whatsoever. Even though you're 10% of 100 million is a lot of money. Like out of my principles and my ethics, I wouldn't have put up with that whatsoever. I'd rather spend my time on an athlete who like just showed that they really, really wanted to learn and wanted to improve. So for me, I always go towards hard workers over talented athletes. I love those people. Like, you know, I don't love naturally talented boxers, because I think things come too easy for them. I love boxers who show perseverance and who keep going after their obstacles. Like most of the best athletes in the world aren't practicing their sports. Like most of the most talented athletes have left. It's the most perseverant ones and the most kind of resilient ones that are still going. Like, and I love talking to people about talent and whether talent actually exists, or like the whole nature versus nurture and the 10,000 hours rules. And like, there's some great books about that. And I love kind of debating about that as well. So, yeah, I'll always choose hard work over talent.
Cool. And then do you think, how much of a role do you think like strength and conditioning plays in terms of boxing performance, or do you think like boxing specific drills are like way more important?
Yeah. The sport specific drills are always going to be more important. However, I do like boxing is such an old school sport. Like it's really, really, really old school in terms of people still train the way they do like 40, 50 years ago. And you ask why, and they go, because that's how we did it. And I'm like, if I love questioning. I love debating and questioning. And the biggest question, and every single athlete that we work with in Unit 3, like we force them to ask why. Like, and if we can't answer why, they don't have to do a drill. So if we ever say, okay guys, we're doing 200 burpees now, and they go, why? Like, we don't have an answer for that, so they don't have to do it. And I think that's a great thing, like just to question everything. Whereas the coaches that have, you know, a why behind every drill, I think are always like the best coaches. So in terms of boxing, there's such a massive gap with strength and conditioning, and like you wouldn't believe how bad most of the best boxers train. Like it would actually shock you. Like, you know, like their flexibility is terrible, their mobility is terrible, their strength is terrible. Like, you know, they're just such hard workers. Like, but if you were to actually take them away and do like mobility programs and strength programs and like proper conditioning, not just 5 mile runs at 6 o'clock in the morning because they saw it in Rocky. Like we call it all the 1%. And like they add up massively. Like I think most boxers are leaving 10-20% of their potential on the table. Like, by just, you know, obviously the boxing is still the main part of it. You know what I mean? And you have to be doing that. But like so many boxers are leaving massive potential on the table because they're not doing all these other drills. Like, so, yeah, a good strength and conditioning coach is definitely a necessity for a top boxer.
Cool. And would you compare it to like boxers who do that sort of stuff? It's kind of like, from what I'm taking from what you said, that like general health and fitness, most people don't want to do mobility work because it's not sexy. And like, so is it similar in that scenario?
Yeah, for sure. Like boxers box because they like boxing. You know what I mean? So they want to just get in and get their gloves on and start hitting bags and pads and sparring straight away. And once they're done, they just want to go home. Like, so, whereas I could name a couple of boxers straight off the bat who are there early. Like, it's the same people that show up early, like 20, 30 minutes early before the session. And you see them like doing their activation drills and their mobility drills and wrapping their hands, taking their time to do it. And then after the session, like, my main job when I coach Gary Cully is to tell him to go fucking home. Like, he won't leave the gym. And like, that's why I know he's going to be a champion. Like, he just, even at the moment, like, we're still training twice a day through all this. Like, we just finished a run there. Like, and he always, it's so annoying. He always does more. Like, and I'm like, that's not the session. The session was 8 rounds and he'll do 10 rounds. But that's his, even though it's so annoying, it's his best characteristic. Like, he'll just always do an extra 10 minutes of core work or an extra, we were running this evening and we were meant to run at a certain time, and he just kept coming in underneath that time because he just wants to outwork everybody. Like, so I think those people, like, that talent, especially when you have someone with talent who works hard, I think that combination is just scary. Like, so.
That's like probably the very rare, unique scenario where you said you would take a hard worker all the time, where he's like the one person you're like, stop working so fucking hard.
Yeah, yeah. Like, obviously, like, there's still a balance to it, and it has to be smart work. Like, smart work is important. But yeah, there's so many boxers that just kind of do the basics. Like, they'll come in, warm up, well, barely actually warm up, just come in, hit the bag, hit pads, spar, go home. Whereas it's, I always talk to people about injuries. Like, those people miss probably 20 days a year through injuries. Whereas it's the guy that comes in 30 minutes early and, warms up and wraps their hands correctly. They're there consistently, like, over the whole year. And those extra 20 sessions that they don't miss because they're not injured, that's probably the difference at the end of the day, like, between winning and losing. That consistency over intensity.
Yeah. How did the Gary Cully thing come about? Did you coach him from young, or did you coach him in the boxing club? Or?
Yeah, so I kind of would have known him, like, just because he was in the boxing club and I was in the boxing club, and then
speak of the devil, he just popped in.
No way. You can call him names now. So yeah, he would have been a younger boxer in the club at the time, and then as I was going to transition to a coaching role, it just would have started with, like, taking the kids for a run or taking them for core work or stretching, and then it trying to transition into pad work. And then the first tournament that we went away together with would have been over 10 years ago. We went to a tournament in Denmark, and he stopped the German kid in the first round. So he won gold over in Denmark there. And I told this story last week. Like, so afterwards, everyone else wants to go for burger and chips, and he had this thing where he wanted to spar 12 rounds that night because we had to sleep in a boxing club before flying home the next day. And it's like, this fucking kid, like, just literally won a gold medal at an international tournament, and when everyone else is going for burgers and chips, he wants to go back to the gym and spar 12 rounds, like, because that's what Floyd Mayweather does or whatever. Like, and I was like, this kid is different. Like, I just knew there was something different about him. And then I suppose from there we would have just kind of trained more and more together, and kind of grew that coach boxer relationship then.
Cool. And that's so are you full-time boxing now?
No. So obviously I run a gym called Unit 3 Health and Fitness in Naas. So I co-own that, and that's what brings in the money, obviously, like, and that's my day job. But so I normally kind of work in the morning, and then train, say, Gary and the guys at 11 o'clock. So Gary would normally train 2, if not 3 times a day. Like, that's his full-time job. But the mortals like me, we have to, do other work in between that. So when he's training and then going back to bed, I have to go back to work. So normally he normally trains at, like, say, 11 o'clock in the morning and then 5 or 6 in the evening. But yeah, I kind of run the business and the classes in between that. Cool.
So let's talk about Unit 3. How did Unit 3 come about? Gary is involved. Gary, the other Gary, and Lily, are they involved as well?
Yeah. People always ask me, they're like, "How's Gary?" And I'm like, "Which one?" It's like the 2 people I spend most of my day call Gary. So I worked with Gary Morehouse in a gym, and we worked together for 2 years. But so it was even within the first week of when we started working together, we kind of connected. And again, it kind of comes to questioning things. Like he'd be very much of a similar mindset to me. Like we'd question things all the time, and like why are we doing this or why are we doing that? And it just came to, we used to go for lunch once a week and do goal setting. So we'd meet up in my apartment and we'd write down goals, and he'd hold me accountable to my goals, and I'd hold him accountable to his. And it was so productive. Like it's probably one of the most productive things I've ever done. Like literally every week we'd sit down and be like, right, this week I'm going to do like 5 runs and I'm going to read a book, whatever it was. And then the next week I had to tell him, I didn't want to ever say, oh, I didn't actually do that run. Like, I said I was going to do it. Like, so we held each other to it. And I suppose we just kind of kept going and kept going from there. And it turned out to, we're like, why don't we go try this ourselves? Like, the guy we worked with was amazing, like really, really, really cool. But I suppose it's just, you got to fly the nest at some point, don't you? Like, that's literally all it was. Like, I was very happy with where I was, and it was a great facility and location. And I had, like, for me as a coach, independence is really, really important. Like I want to just be left alone to do my sessions, if you know what I mean. I don't want to be micromanaged, and I never was. But just I always wanted the freedom to have my own keys to my own gym. Do you know what I mean? Like that's worth so much more than money to me. Like I wanted, if my friend came over from America and just wanted to go to the gym for the afternoon, I wanted to have keys to my own place to be able to do that. Not have to ask someone, is it okay if I bring my friends? Like, so I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah.
I've always wanted that. Um, so yeah, we just said, why don't we go do it? And then there was another girl that we knew at the time called Lily. Um, so while I love the coaching side of it, I don't love all the other side of it. So that's, I think, like I definitely, honestly, hand on my heart, would not have been able to do it on my own. Like there's so much that goes into it with marketing and emails and accounting and stuff. So while I love the gym side of it and the coaching and the programming and the business side of it, I don't love the forms and the, I suppose, administration side of it. So, and then again, like with the accounting side, Gary is amazing. Like, so we each have our kind of strengths, and I think that's what's kind of pushed us forward. Like, so we get to each work on our strengths, really.
Cool. And so what the gym, are you doing virtual classes now for members, or do you have stuff like that going on?
Yeah, yeah. So it's such a strange. I meant to say it. Like, I'm really, really proud of the health and fitness industry at the moment. Like, I think it's like, I think we've done a good job, haven't we? Just,
Yeah, I think
you,
like putting out workouts and
yeah, like that's our, I suppose, our intellectual property, and you would have worked for years to come up with those workouts. And Colin is just trying out so much content at the moment. Like Philly and Louise, all Louise's challenges are amazing. Like, and you guys are just putting out, like, even the Q&As you're doing, like just putting out so much free content. Like that's so valuable. And not just you, I'm seeing gyms like Pete Taylor I work with a lot. Like he's putting out, just Jesus, the content he's putting out. Like you'd pay thousands to go to a seminar for this stuff, and they're just giving it for free. Like I think it's, I'm very, very, very proud of the fitness industry at the moment. Like, and everyone is just really coming together and throwing out so much free content. And look, not all of it is of the highest quality, but people are trying, and I think that's it does say a lot about them. You know what I mean? Like, so, and obviously there's a lot of workouts that are just 50 burpees, and it's not the highest quality, but still people are trying. Like, so I'm really, really proud of that. So yeah, Unit 3, we're doing Zoom classes every morning at 10 a.m. and like each of us takes a class. Like, so I did a boxing class this morning, and Orla is doing a class tomorrow. So it's kind of good, like nice variety. And then because some of us have, like, I have a private group with all my boxers and stuff on it, so I send them a session every night, and they have to send it back to me that they've done it every morning. And so there's, I suppose, little micro communities within our community, and like the boxers would all do certain sessions, and then we work with a lot of teams and athletes, and so all of the athletes are doing certain sessions then, and then a lot of the community members are doing certain sessions. So it's kind of cool to see, like, and even a lot of people have said about the Zoom sessions that it's just nice to see other people's faces. Like we kind of open up the screen 10 minutes beforehand, and I suppose just for you to see Colin and Colin to see Philly and Louise and stuff, like it's nice, isn't it?
Do you know, I've never actually said this to anyone, but the reason I started we started a weekly video, the four of us, where we like answer questions or just talk about different topics and stuff like that. And before that, we were trying to organize video calls, and we were all just at like different times or whatever. And I was like, if I can organize this, we can have something for our social media. But really, I just want the three of them and me in one place so we can just hang out and talk.
Yeah,
and we'll
honestly,
just put out information, and if people enjoy it, cool.
it's so nice just seeing people's faces, like, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
we're very limited in who we see at the moment, aren't we? Like you're probably seeing the same two, three people every day, and
Yeah.
to just get to see one of your friends' faces, and I think we're very, very lucky that at a time like this we have the access to all this social media, and we are very still connected, you know, even though we're not meant to physically be connected, like, but it's just nice to have quizzes with your friends or calls with your friends and stuff. So yeah, we're doing Zoom classes, and then so I was trying to put out as much content as we can then as well.
Cool. So you have a mix of like boxers teams and then say general health and fitness?
Yeah. So most of our classes would be kind of just normal strength and conditioning classes, and then we have boxing classes outside that, and then sometimes in the evenings then we're quite kind of lucky with where we're based as well. We're quite close to a lot of teams, so we're kind of close to the Dublin side of Nace. We're down in Nace Industrial Estate, so we do a lot of work with like Kill and Salons and Nace Rugby Club and stuff like that. So we can kind of still keep some of that going then as well. So just sending them sessions. And I was trying to say to a lot of players, it's obviously important to still keep training, but it's more so for their mental health. Like that, these people they're like greyhounds. Like they're used to working, and then to just stop training, it's hard on your mental health as well, isn't it? Like, so I think it's so important to, you know, you might not have to be like striving for PBs at this time. You know what I mean? It's probably not the best time for that, but I think training for your mental health is so important at the moment. Like
a lot of people who I've talked to, like clients, or I do some coaching in Tala in Darren Murray personal training in his gym, a friend of mine, and a lot of people have said like they never realized how much of a mental breakaway like going to the gym and doing a session was from the rest of the day, and you only realize that when it's like taken away, sort of. And the same for me, like going and coaching people in person. I never realized how much I would miss in-person coaching. Like everybody, a lot of coaches want to like work online and try, like take everything online and go live on a beach or something like that. But like in-person coaching, now that since all this has happened, has been taken away, I'm like, I cannot wait to get back and coach some sessions.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Even so, this morning I took the Zoom class, and actually I really, really, really enjoyed it. Like I actually got a buzz out of it. Like, but I was like, I wish I was there to like, because for me, I don't really care about money. I care about giving good quality. Like, you know what I mean? I hate giving, like, I always ask these people this question, would you rather do an amazing session for 100 people and not get paid, or do a really shit session but get paid a lot of money?
Yeah, not get paid for sure.
Yeah, and do an amazing session, like.
Yeah.
And I'm completely the exact same. Like, I just prefer doing quality work over crap work. Like, so I was a bit apprehensive of the Zoom sessions, because I was like, oh, I can't deliver the same quality as, you know, I can't go around and do pad work with people on Zoom, or, you know, be able to like touch on the tiny details about like where their feet are or where their hands are. But it's still really, really fun. But I just miss that like higher level work, like, you know, of just getting into the trenches, like, and being there with people, like. So, and even like the bit of banter after and before the class as well. I miss that so much. Like, and so many people, a lot of boxers, like, they just miss the gym and the guys and the girls, and like so many of the teams, it's the dressing room that they miss as much as out on the pitch, like, isn't it?
Yeah, like you were saying, like we miss the coaching and the finer details, but for those people, just like we were saying, even on Zoom, just having that interaction is like, like that's probably for them in the situation at the moment. Not obviously the details are important, but they probably don't care about that stuff now. They're just happy to like at least some of the people I'm coaching, they're just happy to have interaction with the
Yeah.
coaches and with like, the other people who they're used to training with. So
Mm. But like
it's
for
different.
most people, for most people, the gym has become the social hub now as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely, definitely.
Like how
Um,
many of your friends, like I socialize in the gym. Like any of if my friends or family want to see me, they come to the gym and we train together. Like it's we don't go to the pub or whatever. Like so, and there's so many of the people. It's your best friends are in the gym, really, aren't they? Like
yeah, for sure. And I think that's what Unit Three, like creating that community. I think that's
mm,
what will make a successful gym more than like people can pay like hundreds of thousands of euro and have the best kitted out gym in the world and like have all this sort of stuff. But like it will always come back to that community and that good level of
yeah, I
coaching.
think
And
so too.
like you were saying, people who actually care about the session rather than like trying to make a shitload of money. You actually just want to provide a high quality service. And I think that's
Yeah,
what you guys do really well.
thank you.
Yeah. So quick change of gears. So you had the boxing going, you have Unit 3. What made you apply for Hell Week?
I don't know. um, I suppose as a coach, um, you know, I'm always pushing people out of their comfort zone. Um, and not drastically like, but we want the best for people, and that your best only comes when you do like push out of the normal boundaries. And I think that's the only time you grow really is when you're out of your comfort zone. So I wanted to do it for myself. I wanted to do it to, to see how far can I go, like what are my limits, and but then B, as a coach, I wanted to do it to show, like I coach a lot of kids and I want to be able to just show them that like I'm willing to do this too, like and I'm willing to lead by example. So if I ever have to ask them, like tonight, so I was doing a session with Gary, like, and it was horrific, like it was disgusting. We were both like getting sick at the end of it, almost, like it was horrible, but like I want to show them that I'm willing to do it too, like to help you. So I'm trying to show that to all my kids, like in the classes, that like, look, I'm willing to get out of my comfort zone and be like, it's the most vulnerable I've ever been. Like, I poured my soul out on TV. Like people saw me at my like fucking lowest moments, like, so, and I think just to show people, just be vulnerable, take risks. Like it doesn't matter, like, because the growth I got from it was worth anything like that. So
Cool. What about so how does the process work? You applied and then there was interviews, was it?
it's actually quite a complicated process. So there's about 6 or 7 steps. Like I think that they said there was 800 applicants, I think. So it starts with a really long application form. And so Emma, my fiance, like she was the one that saved me, because for me, I'd be quite private, like and I was like, look, I'll just get there because I'm fit or whatever like that, and I'll show them I'm fit. And then she's like, it's a TV show, Niall, it's not a fitness competition. Like, so you have to show vulnerability, like you have to be willing to talk about yourself and share, because at the end of the day, it is a TV show. Like the X Factor is not a singing contest, it's a TV show. Like, and you have to kind of play the game a little bit. So the application form, like, it's like, what are your biggest fears and what are your biggest regrets in life? I'm like, Jesus, like, it was really difficult to answer. Like, it took me 10 days to fill out the application form. Like,
Wow.
it was difficult. But I knew that there's going to be 800 other application forms on the table. Like, you have to stand out here. You have to get noticed. And then from there, they picked 100 people to go to the fitness test. And that's kind of where I suppose, knew I had to show something, because I don't really have an interesting life, if you know what I mean. Like, there's a lot of people there, again, going with the TV show. Like, there's people that were on the show that had been in jail or had like murders in their family, and not nice things, but I suppose good TV things. And I knew I don't have any of that, so I was like, I need to stand out at the fitness test. So I was like, I have to win it. Like, so I went to the fitness test knowing that, like, if you want to do this, you got to win here today. Like, so, yeah, so I did quite well in the fitness test. And then after that, you had to do a camera interview to show that you would talk on camera. And then a call with a psychologist, and then a call with the producer, and then another camera interview again. And then from there, you find out. So I think there's about 6 steps to it. Um,
Wow.
yeah, it was tough, and it's a long process. People are like, I think when he found out maybe 6 weeks or 8 weeks before that we got it, like, but yeah, that was the process.
Cool. And had you been training with in your head that just in case I get this, I need to be prepared?
So that's one of my, I suppose, philosophies in life. It's so we call it act as if. So it means that you should always act as if your goal is going to happen. So, for example, you know, if you're a Leaving Cert student, you should still be studying as if the Leaving Cert is going to take place, like rather than just getting 2 weeks notice, like so literally the day I sent in my application form, I started training for this. I made my training specific to this, and that's something so many people are in limbo at the moment, but you should still act as if. So if you sign up for the marathon this year and you're like, oh, I don't know, is it going to be pushed back? Just train as if it's not going to train as if it's going to be on. And look, if it gets pushed back, then you just have more time. But don't wait until you know for sure, because they'll probably only tell you about a month beforehand, and by then it's too late. Um, it's kind of one of my big pet peeves with, say, boxing as a sport. Like, people get offered a fight and they're like, with 4 weeks to go, and they're like, oh, I'm not in shape. Why are you not in shape? Like, you know what I mean? You should be ready, because train as if the opportunity is going to come, because it will come at some point. So you want to be ready for it. So yeah, I started training pretty much straight away, like, and tried to make my training as specific as possible for it.
Cool. I remember just you mentioned boxing. When I was younger, I loved Ricky Hatton, but he was the
Yeah,
guy who always like used to balloon up
2 or 3
after
stone.
fights
Yeah,
and like he,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. He'd put
yeah.
on like two
So
or three stone.
yeah, how did so was your training was specific for this? So what sort of stuff did you do, or what did you change from your regular training?
Yeah. So I suppose one of my biggest, like, I love preparation. Like, I love writing training camps and training programs and stuff like that. I absolutely love it. I'm a total nerd. Like, I sometimes I just sit down and design training programs, like, for fun, like, for no one. Um, so I suppose we always kind of reverse engineer. So you look at the end point and then you work backwards to where you are now and fill in the blanks. Like, so just for example, you would look at the marathon. Okay, I need to be able to run 26 miles. I can currently run 1 mile, and then you design that program. So I did so much research, like a ton of research. So I would have watched series one about 3 or 4 times, and I'd keep pausing it and look at all the details. Like, okay, what are they doing now? Could you do that now? Okay, if you can't, write it down. I would have read a lot of books on it, like, David Goggins, and there's information, there's so much information. I suppose one of the best sources of information was a friend of mine, a friend Dwayne. He was in the army, so I just called him up and I asked him, like, can you give me any advice here? So we did a lot of training together as well. So what I kind of concluded from that was there was three main areas why people failed. So first reason was they couldn't handle heavy weight. Like, hiking with heavy weights just took so many people out of these competitions. The second one was injuries. Like, obviously, you know, there's no such thing as injury prevention, but you can mitigate the risk quite a lot. And the third thing was cold. So the three things that mainly got people was heavy weight, an injury, and the cold. So I kind of wrote most of my training program based around that. So there's no point running. I didn't do any runs whatsoever, because you don't run in the army, you run with weight. So I made every single thing I did was with a weighted vest on. Like, every morning, 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock in the morning, a 20 kg weighted vest on, going for runs. Like, and it was so shit. Like, because I love running kind of fast and, like, just letting loose and opening up. Whereas this, you're just plodding along, like, and it was just. I used to have to do like an hour run in the morning with a 20 kg weight on, and you're like, you probably do like 3 or 4 K, like, you know what I mean? You do very little distance, and normally I just love just blasting off, like, so it was tough to slow down and learn to transition into that. And then for the cold, I knew the cold is going to be probably the big thing for me, because I'm I'd be lean enough, I suppose. So I tried to really, really adapt to that. So I used to do like a cold bath every night for about 20, 30 minutes, just to try get acclimated to that. Like, so, I think that was the best part of my training because people always ask, like, how do you build mental toughness? And you do it by spending as long time uncomfortable as you can. And the cold will do that to you very, very, very quick. Like, even like for Gary's training camps, we always do an ice bath the week before a fight. And yes, there are physical health benefits to it, but it's mainly mental health. Like if you can stick out an ice bath for 10 minutes, you'll win any fight in the world. So because it's you versus you, and every like atom in your body is telling you get the hell out of here. Like this hurts so much. So if you can kind of just push through that, it's really, really good way of building your mental strength. So I did a lot of kind of cold water work.
That was actually one of the questions that was sent in. Did you do any specific cold water training? So that's perfect. I think I remember seeing you do something with a Wim Hof instructor before as well, did I?
Yeah, yeah, I would have done over the years. I'd be quite into the Wim Hof work. And in the lead up to, so my preparation for this was in the lead up to one of Gary's fights as well. So like, and I would have been like training him as well. So myself and him went to a couple of Wim Hof workshops at the time. I told him it was for him, but it was actually for me. Like, so yeah, I think that was so key. Like because during the course, I very much believe in like controlling what you can control and just forget about everything else. So a lot of the contestants, either the recruits, were they spend so much time worrying. They were always the second we'd finish an event, they would ask, "Oh God, I wonder what we're gonna have to do next. What do you think we're gonna have to do next?" I was like, "I don't know, and I don't care because there's no way to know. Like I can't possibly know. So I'm just gonna roll with it." And I would just spend time breathing and relaxing as much as I could, whereas they were just burning energy. So anytime we were on that truck going somewhere, I would just kind of close my eyes and breathe as much as I could. So I think it definitely helped.
Cool. And you, so you, I think I might have seen you say something before that you were like getting up in the middle of the night, maybe doing some training sessions as well. Is that right? Or were you training at odd hours?
Um, One of the other contestants, number seven, Dan, he used to set an alarm for 3 o'clock in the morning, and he would get up and he'd go do an ice bath at 3 o'clock in the morning. That man, he's an absolute machine. Like he is so, so tough. I did some like really early in the morning sessions and some really late at night sessions as well, just to try to get used to. They just pull every bit of normality away from you, like, and just you're doing stuff at 2 in the morning, and you're like, like they completely take all kind of normality and timetable and routine out of you. So I tried to just do that as much as I could to myself.
And so another question that we got sent in was, what do you think was the most important part of your preparation?
Um, Hiking with heavyweight by far. So like because there's certain what I did was I have my training program here with me. I'm just going to show you really, really quickly. So I don't know if you can see it, but what I did one day was I was actually in Italy at the time that I had applied. And so what I did was I just jotted down on that notebook every single element that would come into play. So I was like, what elements are going to be in play? I'm going to have to run with weight. I'm going to have to do a lot of push-ups. I'm going to have to hold a bar out in front and over my head. I'm going to have to crawl. I'm going to have to be in cold water. And I literally filled 2 sheets of all the elements that I'd have to do. And that's kind of how I put my program together. But some of the things you'll only have to do once or twice, maybe. Um, but you are going to have to carry a bag on your back for like every single day. For probably 40% of the day, that bag will be on your back. So if you're even walking to the van, that bag is on your back. When you're walking back into the barracks, the bag is on your back. And it's 30 kilos or 40, like 30, 40 kilos. Like, so it's heavy. Like, um, so yeah, that was definitely the most important thing. And unfortunately, like that was what took out the most people. I think on day two, we had to hike a mountain. It took out 6 people, and just in one event, like because they just couldn't handle the weight. And then on day five, we had a big hike, and that took out another 4. So 10 people went on hiking with weight challenges. Like that's near enough to like 40% or something it took out. Like so, it's a big number.
Yeah. So even with like you were obviously very well prepared and planned stuff out well, were there still aspects of it that you were like, there's just no way you can prepare for this? Like
Um,
maybe on the mental side or something like that. Like you were saying, you got very uncomfortable, even the jumping into the water thing. Um,
yeah. Yeah, I prepared for that mentally rather than physically because of just the danger element. Like I knew I would have to jump off that Blessington Bridge, and I only live in Nace. Like it's 10 kilometers from me, but like that would be kind of stupid to go and do. You know what I mean? Like that's not safe to go do. So I did it mentally in my head a lot, and I was like, look, you're gonna be terrified, just do it. Like I made a balls of it, like, but I did it, like Whereas the thing that really, really, really caught me was on day 6 when we were in the quarry and I had to jump into water, and just before I had to jump, they cable tied my hands and feet together. Like that just oh my God, like that. I've never felt fear like that in my life. And like that's one thing I don't know, could you train for? Because again, the safety element involved, like I don't, please no one do that, please. If you're training for next year, don't do that. Um yeah, so I think I prepared for most things, but that was the one time where fear just took over, like so I just didn't expect that. Like so that was a good game plan by them.
yeah. And so like, again, another question that will fit here perfectly that we got in was, what would you say was the hardest part of Hell Week for you?
Interestingly, obviously that was really hard, but the thing I found most difficult was actually the night before that. So on day 5, so again, like we probably had about 5 hours total sleep at this point, and on day 5 was when we had to do the big hike. So it was 21 kilometers over the mountains, and like they said it a great way. Like most people do a marathon and then you go for a couple of beers and you get high fives from your friends and you go home and chill out on the couch. Like, whereas we do a marathon and then they tell you you're an asshole and then they make you do another one. Like, so that day we'd done the hike and then they just made us stand still and they took a person out every 30 minutes and you're just standing still. You're so tired. It's, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night or something. You've just hiked all day and they're pulling people out and you're like, so your mind starts going like, what's happening here? And then someone just comes back in covered in water. So you're like, shit, we're going into water. It's 10 at night. You're fucking cold. You're hungry. You're tired. And anyway, I ended up being the second last person taken out. So I just had to stand still for 2.5 hours. And on paper, that's fine. You know what I mean? No one is beating you up. Like it's just standing still for 2.5 hours. It was the hardest part of the whole thing. Like the you had to just stare at the wall, but then the wall, like I was hallucinating so bad. Like the wall started moving, the roof was moving, the curtains were moving. We kept falling asleep standing up, and your body would just kind of jerk, and you'd come back to life. And then the DS would come in and make sure you weren't moving, and that was just like at least the other things like the jumping into the quarry was horrible, but it was probably about 5 seconds. Where this was just 2.5 hours of just mental torture. Like so, it was really really tough.
Um, just funny when when I first found out that you were doing it, when it all started to come out, the first thing that popped into my head was Niall is like such a chilled, nice guy. Like, how is he going to react when someone is standing there screaming in his face? Did you find that difficult?
No, not whatsoever. And I love asking people. Like, can I ask you really quickly? What would you find
Yeah.
the toughest thing?
I hate the cold. I'm gonna be honest with you. I hate the
Yeah,
cold. Someone screaming at me, I don't think would really like bother me too much, but like the cold and lack of sleep would get me good.
yeah. Um, the way I approached it was it's just a game. Like it's just a game. You just have to play the game. So, like, if you were to bump into the DS tomorrow and you said, "Hey, I was talking to Niall last night," they'd be like, "Who the hell is Niall?" Like these guys don't know me. They don't. So therefore, they don't like me. They don't dislike me. Like whatever they're saying to you, like they don't hate you. Like so, I didn't take anything personally there whatsoever. And that was my game plan going in was, Niall, you're doing push-ups regardless. So, you know, if you like, he made a joke to me on night one and I smiled and I had to do push-ups. But I know if I didn't smile, he would have said, "What? Am I not funny? Do push-ups." Like, I was doing them regardless. So my tactic was, no, just get bloody good at doing push-ups, like, because you're gonna have to do hundreds of them. So I didn't care whatsoever when they shouted at me, like, not at all, because I didn't like. If you shout at me right now, that would probably upset me because it would be personal. But these guys, like, it was like being on a game in a game console for a week. Like, I just didn't take anything personally at all.
That's a really good mindset that I'd say like people who maybe the people who didn't make it as far as you might not have had that same approach.
Yeah. And then I love, like, I always bump into people in the street and they go, Jesus, if he had said that to me, I would have dropped him. And I'm like, have you seen how big these guys are? Like, no, you wouldn't have. These guys are fucking scary as well. Like, so, I don't think that was an option. Like, so,
It's easy
um,
from the armchair to be like, yeah, I
oh,
would have dropped
so,
that guy.
yeah,
No.
yeah. Just sitting at home at 9:30 on a Monday night with a cup of tea in your hand, like, it was a different story being there cold and tired and hungry.
Yeah. Just someone actually, Owen popped in the comments. Did you ever train while hungry in your build up to it? Like, did you experiment with training depleted and stuff like that?
Um, that would have to be another whole podcast own. I went down a rabbit hole on nutrition. Like, my whole view on nutrition changed massively while doing this. So do you want me to touch on it?
Yes, but before you do, we're going to get cut off by Instagram. So for anyone who's watching, I'm going to end this live now, and then I'm immediately going to go live again. And then Niall, if you jump back in again, if that's cool, we'll
Perfect.
dive into it then.
Cool.
Cool.
Thanks.
Hey guys, part two. I told you this is going to be a good one. Hey everyone, thanks for coming back in. We will get Niall back in any second now. Niall, thanks for coming back.
Yo. Um, so we were just talking about nutrition.
Yep. Train them while hungry,
Um,
someone asked.
yeah. So can I ask you a question? And I suppose I'll ask it to everyone if they answer themselves. So when you're training, okay, and when you finish your session, what's the most important thing right there? Recovery or adaptation?
I guess it depends on the situation, maybe.
So a good coach
I
will
know
always
too
answer
much.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Um, but that question fueled so much for me. So again, after a session, what's most important, recovery or adaptation? So a lot of people will just automatically say recovery, but sometimes over recovering can actually blunt adaptation. So adaptation means getting fitter or stronger. So for me, like, I train because I enjoy it, but the point of training for Hell Week was to get either fitter or stronger or faster or whatever it was. So I had a goal in mind from every single session. So so as I said, sometimes over recovering can blunt your adaptation because it's the inflammation that you kind of cause from the session and the tears in the muscles and all sorts of stuff that actually tell your body you need to get stronger because this fucker's going to do this to you again the next day. Like, he's going to make you lift this weight or run again. So I played around with that and I came up with a theory um called I didn't come up with it, but I played with it, called mitochondrial biogenesis through carbohydrate periodization. Um
Has such a nice ring to it.
yeah, doesn't it? I got my 3-year-old niece to say that, actually. So yeah, I played around with seeing, could I make my body grow more mitochondria by playing around with when I had my carbohydrates. Um, So yeah, total rabbit hole and go on for a day on just this. Um, but short answer, yeah, I played with my food quite a lot. Because I knew that they were going to do it to us. Like, there's no point training when you've had a full night's sleep and when you're totally rested and full of carbs and had a coffee and you're comfortable, because that never happened to us once. Like, I was never comfortable once. I was never fully fueled once. I was never rested once. So I would have done a lot of kind of fasted cardio sessions, and I would have done a lot of sessions with no carbs because naturally I run off carbs. Like, if you give me a bowl of porridge, I'll go all day, but without it, I'm kind of useless. So I had to change that because I knew that I wouldn't ever get like a bowl of porridge in the morning. So I did a lot of fasted sessions and trying to make myself fat adapted that I could run off fat as fuel. Like, so yeah. Yeah.
Cool. And did you find, on a similar note, did you find that the food in there, the food that you got, were you okay with it? Did you find it difficult? Was it
Yeah.
something that you didn't
A
matter?
lot
You
of
just
people
had to
ask,
eat
yeah, a lot of people ask about the food. And it's kind of so we normally got one nice meal a day. So like after a really crappy event, they'd bring out a big massive tray of, say, like some kind of homely meal, like a cottage pie or um chicken curry or something, like some kind of home kind of cooked meal. Apart from that, then there was little bits of fruit lying around. We used to get a pot noodle and a sandwich in the evening. Um and it was pretty poor. Like, we estimated that we were on a calorie deficit of about 4 to 5 thousand calories a day in a deficit because by what we were burning. Like, so, Dan, number 7, he lost 8 kilos that week. I lost 4, and I was like, anytime you saw me speak to camera was after I was finished, and like I look unrecognizable to myself. Like, my eyes, like my face was so gaunt, and my eyes were like completely sunken in. Like, and yeah, I lost like like 4 kilos, often already
You
quite
were lean.
lean. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, I was too lean at the time. Like, so yeah, I lost a lot of weight. So, but what was interesting, I was talking to one of the guys about it. Like, there's kind of two states that we talk about, like our fight or flight state and our rest and digest state. So kind of our parasympathetic nervous system. So when you're in the fight or flight, like some people find it hard to eat after a session or right before a session, and it's normally because that the nerves are tingling and stuff like that. So, but that's how we felt 24/7. So we never, and even I remember after it was over, the psychologist was talking to us and she said, "Look, you're gonna have stomach issues." And I was wondering, I was like, "Why? Like, I never have stomach issues." And I did, like, for a month or so after, because I realized we never once went into a rest and digest state in a week. Like, normally, even in a stressful day, you might get home and you'll chill out and you might relax for a while and go into that parasympathetic state, but we never ever did. So even though I knew the value of calories, it was so hard to eat. Like, you were finished, and like there was a thing of peanut butter on the table. I used to remember just literally taking spoons of it, like, because I was like, it's just calories. Get as much calories in as you can. But I felt so sick doing it. Like, so, it was difficult. That A, they didn't give you enough food, and B, it was actually even hard to finish what they did give you. Like, they're fuckers.
Wow. Do you think, just like talking about recovery versus adaptation and stuff like that, do you think at the rabbit hole you went down, obviously Hell Week is an extreme situation, but do you think you can take that information and use it with different people, like maybe like Ironman or like other
Yeah,
extreme scenarios?
yeah. So I had kind of used it before. So I coach a guy. He's an ultra runner, and his name is Peter. So he was training for a 100-mile race, which is 160 kilometers on foot in just one go. So you just run 100 miles in one go. And so we would have looked at that. To me, I think marathons and ultra marathons are actually fueling competitions, not fitness competitions, because the fittest person in the world with no fuel, unfortunately, it just your body just won't go. Whereas I think even someone that's not as fit, but if you can keep their petrol tank topped up, they can kind of keep moving to a degree. So um, he ended up doing, he's, by the way, he's 63 years old, and he ended up coming sixth in this 100-mile race. So there was a lot of people that were in
Wow.
their 30s and 40s that failed, and they failed because cramps, like they just couldn't take in any more food, because what they were eating was incorrect. Like so when we broke it down, if you look at a 100-mile race purely from a calorie point of view, it's 20,000 calories on average you need to do 100 miles in one go. So if you look at, so I'm sure you know the formulas of how much per gram of carbs and stuff like that. So if you're to try get that purely from carbs, which most runners will instinctively do, it's about 4.5 kilos worth of food that you have to ingest and digest while running. It's not, it's, that sounds like torture. Like, you know what I mean? I'd rather do the 100 miles than try to eat 4.5 kilos of food in one go. Whereas when you look at it from fat sources, it's only 1.2 kilos worth of food. So when you put it that way, it kind of, it's much more appealing as well to do it through fat, isn't it? So we would have done a lot of it like through that. So that's kind of, I would have learned a lot of it back then. And yeah, I've definitely taken a lot of it from myself. But yeah, I wouldn't be advising it for the average person. Like so, it's
Yeah.
quite extreme.
Cool. And
But
just
it worked.
yeah, you sorry, I just saw a question pop up there. This guy asked, it's not me, it's U87. I'm not sure who that is, but was Niall ever thrown by how well other competitors were doing, or did he just focus on himself? I think I'll know your answer to this.
No, I was actually more thrown by when someone didn't do well, if that makes sense. Because like your wit, like when you look around the room, like it's, I was actually, I was very, very fortunate. There was one day I was in a cafe in Nice called PS Coffee Roasters. And so I don't know, did you watch series one of this show?
Not all of it, but I caught a few episodes. Yeah.
So you know the girl, Grace O'Rourke, that actually won it?
Yeah.
So I walked into PS Coffee Roasters in Nice about a month before I was going on the show, and she was literally just sitting there, just having a coffee on her own. And I was like, what the hell? Like, so you got to take advantage of that. So
Yeah.
I just kind of turned to my side and, like I said, well done for that, obviously. And I kind of whispered, because we're not meant to tell people that we're going on it, but I whispered, I was like, I'm going in a month. And she turned to me and she told me like loads of advice. But the best thing she told me was that, so she's a really good runner. And on night one for her, so when she normally does a race, she starts in the middle of the pack and then she works her way up. But on night one for her last year, they had to do an 8 mile run. And she started in the middle of the pack and then suddenly found herself going back further and further and further. And she finished like one person before the cutoff point or something. And like all of a sudden her confidence was just shot on night one. Like she's like, oh my God, I'm running with like elite athletes and I'm not one. And it took her a few days for her confidence to come back up. So for me, like that was a great little kind of parable, I suppose, that I knew like you're going to have bad events, and her bad event just happened to come straight away. Um, but like you might quit that night, not knowing that like the perfect event for you might come next. Like same with you, I suppose. With like when you go to all these tournament like competitions, and you might have three workouts in the one day. Like the first one might just not suit you whatsoever. Like, and you could be kind of far down. But like your strength in your favorite workout might come up next. You never know. Like so, don't just go home after the first one, or don't throw the towel in mentally after the first one because you're not doing well. The thing that might come up perfect for you. So, um, on night, like I had the worst start of everybody. Like I barely jumped off that bridge. Like the DS was like, you have 6 hours left. Like you're definitely gonna quit. Like, and they kind of had me marked out. So I had the worst possible start. Like, and that was not my tactic whatsoever. And seeing other people doing well, I could have freaked out, but I didn't whatsoever. I was like, look, just run your own race. The next event might be fine. And the next day, then I actually won one of the events the next day, like so that was okay. But yeah, it threw me off more when people didn't do well. Like there was some really, really, really strong people there. It's felt like there's a guy number 15. His name was Lawrence. Like he's a firefighter and he's a gym instructor. And like I kind of knew him before it, and I was like, this guy is unbelievable. Like and he didn't make it through the morning of day three. Like or yeah, day three, and that kind of shocked me. So I think I was very much, no, just focus on yourself, try to help as many people as you can, because after day four, we actually just became a team, and it was us against them rather than me against everyone. So the team aspect was really, really powerful.
Cool. And that I think on that point, the team aspect, like that kind of really came into play on the
Yeah,
last episode where like they had you guys just kneeling and in stress positions for like what seemed like forever, and then they
yeah,
brought you into the room. How do you, can you talk about that experience a little bit?
yeah. So the last on day six, they basically brought us to a quarry, and I know there was some events there, like jumping into the thing, but most of it was just pointless work. Like it was, we had to smash rocks and flip tires, and I'd have to carry you up, and then you'd have to carry me back, and then do it again, and it was just this pointless stuff. And you're kind of thinking, what's the point of this? But that was the point of it. The point of it was there was no point, and it was just to work you like a dog, right? Um, like you were literally like breaking rocks, carrying them over there, and then carrying them back. And like, what was the point of that? Like, what are we learning here? But that was the point. So, um, they worked us really, really hard, and then we knew it was literally just to tire us out and to soften us up. So then that night they made us do an exercise called escape and evasion, where we had to hike for 6 hours through Glen Malure, and there was a hunter force after us. But I hate to spoil it for people, but it was fake. Like they weren't after us, because if you think about it, there's four novices who are like wrecked tired. If the Irish Army can't capture us in less than 20 minutes, they should all be fired. Like, you know, they had no intention of capturing us until 7:30 in the morning. You know what I mean? That was the plan all along. And we were too tired to figure that out, because looking back now, I would have literally, we just would have taken turns sleeping, like, but we kept alert the whole time, and we were looking at, we were wasting so much energy, like, you know, trying to get away from guys that weren't even after us, like, you know what I mean? And it was just literally to tire us out. So the next morning at 7:30, when they captured us, we had been awake for, 30 hours, I think, at that point, by the time they captured us. And they took all our food away as well. Like they did this little drill where we were allowed to pack food in our bags, and then just before we went for a hike, they came in and took all the food out of our bags and literally threw it in the bin in front of us. And it was soul destroying, because you're thinking, why didn't I just eat that sandwich? Like literally, you were thinking about it for hours after, going, why didn't I just eat that last sandwich? Like, and it was torturing us. And it was just to soften us up, like, so we had no food whatsoever. So then by the time they captured us, we were just wrecked. Like we were so tired. So then, yeah, there was four of us left, and we didn't know how long. We didn't know if this was the last day or was there another day after this, but they just kind of went until they got us. Yeah, that was rough.
Cool. And then like once they captured you, you lost one person pretty quickly, right?
Yeah, but what was interesting was we didn't know that. So that was by far the strangest experience of my whole life, because, and you know, I really had to talk to the guys. Like I'd be very friendly with the other guys, like Porrick and John and Dan, and we kind of almost had to counsel each other through it, because it's such a strange experience. Like, so once they do so many confusion techniques. So when they put the mask over your eyes and the earphones in, they kind of move you around a little bit. Like they used to bring us up and down the stairs. So you have this kind of, I built up this weird mental image of this massive compound in my mind, and that I was in one room, and that Porg was in another room, and that John was in another room, and that Dan was upstairs, and I was downstairs, and that they kept moving us around, and you could hear kind of dogs barking through walls and stuff, and it was so strange. And then at the very end, like even watching the footage, like at the end of it, when it was all revealed, the producer was like, no, you were all just sitting on the ground right there, right beside each other. Like if I had reached out, I could have touched the guys. But in my head, they were 2 stories up and I was outside and they were inside. And I still didn't fully believe him until I saw the footage back that we were literally just lying on the ground beside each other, because they used to just confuse you and move you around and even face you different ways and stuff like that. So we didn't know that Dan had dropped out. Like, so there was one point where they brought the three of us into a room and they were trying to turn us against each other almost. And in my head, I was like, no, there's no way that Dan dropped out, because to me, he was by far the strongest recruit the whole way through. Like he was so steady the whole way through that I was like, no, he's definitely in another room and they're going to try turn us against him and then they're going to bring him in. So I remember like saying nothing for ages until I kind of realized, shit, he is actually gone. Like, and then I blamed it on him. So, yeah, it was just strange. Like you just had total loss of control. Like, but I do. Have you ever done the flotation over in Slivaha in Nice?
Yes, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I actually did that quite regularly. And I actually did it on the morning we were going. So I do that. So I'm okay with darkness and with not being able to hear or see anything. That's okay. But they didn't do that. They actually put inputs in. So they did the crying baby and they did the music and sorts of stuff as well, like that. So it was a strange experience.
Actually, they just asked a question, Float House Ireland. Did you ever fear you were losing it and possibly going too far?
I didn't. I was I was kind of very mindful and very present the whole way through. So I had a couple of techniques. I had one really interesting technique actually for the baby crying, if you want to hear it. So when, as I said, I was in Italy when I was preparing for this event, and I was in a little town very near Sorrento. Do you know Sorrento in Italy?
Mhm.
So for anyone that doesn't know it, it's kind of all these towns built into cliffs out on the coast of Italy. Like so, it's absolutely stunning. But when I was there, normally I hate the sound of babies crying. Like it hurts my heart. Like I feel so bad for them, and I normally have to block my ears or go away until they're okay. But when I was there and I was writing my program, we were sitting on the beach and the cliffs were just there to the side, and this little girl started crying, like screeching, crying, and I was about to get up and walk away, and then I realized, Niall, if you get on the show, you're going to have to listen to this. So I was like, get used to it. So I kind of call the technique association. So I created an association in my mind between the baby crying and the beach in Italy. So I just listened to her cry for 20 minutes and I took in as much details as I could. Like I put my feet in the sand, I just stared at the water and up the cliffs. So I was like, the next time you hear a baby crying, think Italy, think Italy. So it really, really, really worked. So the second they put on those headphones, I went back to Italy. I went back on my holidays. So I used to like, because we had 10 hours there, and it was about 2 hours at a time, and then they take you in for interrogation, and then 2 hours or 2.5 hours in interrogation. So during the 2 hours, I used to go back to Italy, and I would like go through day. I was like, right, where did I go on day one? Where did I go on day two? Where did we go for dinner on day three? And I try to like literally go back to the restaurants. And I used to think of all the running that I did up in the hills and how, come on, you've trained hard for this, just stick it out, stick it out. And for a long time, I was quite content. Like I was literally just on a beach in Italy. It was mad.
That's like the power of like mindset and
Yeah,
visualization and stuff. It's crazy.
completely. Like so, you can do it with anything. You can do it with traffic lights. Every time you see a red light, you can associate that with taking 3 deep breaths or whatever. So like if there's something that you see every time in your day, like associate that with something positive and a smile or a good memory or taking deep breaths or something like that. So it definitely works.
Cool. And do you think like post Hell Week, so once you've finished, do you like you're quite good at like practicing gratitude and like you obviously do the flotation and stuff like that. Do you think that stuff stood to you in terms of recovery after Hell Week, like mentally and physically?
Yeah, so in terms of I made a big mistake with recovery. So my biggest mistake was my ego. So as I said, we weren't meant to tell anybody that we were going. and I told like really very, very, very few people. So I didn't want anyone to know that I'd went. So we finished there on the Friday night. I went to work on Saturday morning, and that was my biggest mistake. And I went to work all next week, my totally normal shifts. I was working at 6:30 in the morning, and I was doing boxing classes at 7, 8 o'clock at night. And that's actually what did more damage than the week. I should have put my hand up and told people that I'd done this, just close people to me, and said, "Look, I need a week off. Like I need to go recuperate." But I was back coaching classes at 6:30 on the Monday and Tuesday morning and stuff, or on the Tuesday morning. And I remember, so in Unit 3, when we're doing an exercise, we demonstrate the exercise. So if we say, "Okay, today, guys, we're doing squats," we demonstrate a squat. And so on one of the mornings, we were doing pull-ups. And I remember when I was going, like I could do 20 pull-ups, no problem, when the week before Hell Week. But like the week after, I remember I had to demonstrate pull-ups. And I remember looking up at the bar going, shit, I don't know if I can do one. Like I was so drained. And I remember doing one. And like if the coach had kept talking, trying to demonstrate something else, like I don't think I would have got another one. Like, but thank God they said, "Okay, so after pull-ups, you're going doing squats." I was like, Jesus, thank God. Like, so my biggest mistake with recovery was not I suppose giving it the credit it deserved. Like, I was, because I came out of it complete. I had no injuries, I had no niggles, I had no nothing. I was fine, but I should have realized, no, like it did take a toll on like so. I think that set my recovery back a little bit. But yeah, so.
So you were back working, and then training wise, were you back training as well?
No. So I differentiate exercise and training. So you know what I mean by that?
Yes.
So I went back exercising, but I didn't go back training. So like in the training for it, I pushed myself to like levels I'd never gone to. And then Hell Week pushed me even further out of my comfort zone. So I believe in like going 1% outside your comfort zone as often as you can, but this pushed me like 100% outside it. So I, and even in my training for it, I sought out as much discomfort as I could. Like if something would make me uncomfortable, I had to do it. So as I said, cold water every night. And like if I was walking by the assault bike and that little voice in my head said, do 10 minutes on the assault bike as hard as you can, like I had to do it. Because like if the DS made me do it, I'd have to do it. Whereas the month after it, I saw as much comfort as I could. Like I didn't go near cold. I just wanted warm baths, and I wanted warm showers, and I wanted a warm bed, and I wanted easy training sessions, and I wanted nice food. And if I wanted ice cream, I was having ice cream.
Yeah.
And so I just wanted comfort for a long, long time. So I think it's actually only now that I'm fully recovered. Like now I'm back pushing myself in training, and going into that uncomfortable place in training. Whereas for a long time, I just wanted to stay in the comfort zone, because I'd been way too far out of it. Like,
And did you gain that 4 kg back?
I gained it back in ice cream in about 3 days. So, some people put on muscle, like some people could gain 4 kg of muscle, and other people could gain 4 kg of fat. I gained 4 kg of ice cream. It's a new nutritional anomaly that happened. So
You did say your philosophies on nutrition change, so maybe this is
yeah, completely. Like I just fucking had ice cream for breakfast and like Cocoa Pops for dinner, and like anything I wanted. Like so, actually, that's what got me through the last hour. The last hour of Hell Week when they had the headphones in, I was like, "You're nearly there. You're nearly there." Because they did an exercise with us before where we had to like observe our surroundings. So when they were interrogating me, I was actually looking at their watch. So like one of them made a mistake by wearing a watch. So like I saw it was 4:30, and I was like, Jesus, like we must be nearly done. Like we have to be nearly done. Like they can't keep this going. So I remember once I saw on your man's watch it was 4:30, I was like, just hang on, hang on, hang on. Like, and I just remember I thought of food then. I was like, what are you gonna have tonight? What are you gonna have tonight? And like I could taste ice cream, like I could taste pizza and stuff. And that's what got me through the last hour. So yeah, it took me that was actually a good learning as well, because I completely took the rules away for a week or two, and it was difficult to get back, because normally my nutrition would be quite good. Um, but it was like I had shit for like 2 weeks or something, and it was hard to get back. Like, it was strange. I created some habits, and then not bad habits, sorry, like, but different habits and stuff I wouldn't normally do. And it was an interesting experience.
Cool. And did you ever tell them that the DS, did you get to speak to them much after?
So the second it was over, they kind of talked to us, and if you watch it back, like I was stone silent, and John started making jokes, and Pork was making jokes, and whereas remember I said it was a game, it was them, me versus them, and I had my guard up so tight for a week, like I didn't let my guard down at all, and then they were kind of just expecting us to like let it down, and I couldn't. I wasn't able to. Like they were still the DS. I still call them DS. Whereas John was like, "How are you, Ray?" and blah blah blah. I wasn't able to do that. So I kind of now they brought us back to the compound to do our interviews and stuff like that, and they actually came into us then to talk to us, and that was probably 2 hours after. So I was able to, and I'd had phone calls home and stuff, so I was somewhat back to being a civilian and not 13 anymore. Um, so we were somewhat able to talk then, and it was nice to just say like thank you very much for the experience, and they were able to say the same. But you know, we're not friends. You know what I mean? I don't want to be friends with them. A lot of people were asking were they just normal after, and they were. They're very good because they're able to switch in and out very very well. But I wasn't able to. Like I still had my guard up, and I still think if I were to walk by them on the street, I'd probably like fix my posture or something like. I suppose they just have that effect really.
Cool. So just to wrap up the whole Hell Week thing, do you have like one biggest takeaway that you got from it?
I think the biggest thing is to be vulnerable. So like just try whatever it is. You know what I mean? Not being cocky, but I put myself into a very vulnerable position on national television, like, and nothing bad happened. So if you're self-conscious about starting running, like do it now. There's no one around. Just do it now. Just go for a run and be vulnerable for the first few times. Or same if you want to, like how many times did you probably have it in, say, the academy where like someone was doing boot camp, but they were afraid to go do the strength class, or vice versa, doing the strength, we're probably afraid to come to the boot camp class. Just, I'm sure the second they tried two classes, they were totally fine. Like you just have to put yourself in that vulnerable position, and like you're going to be the worst for one day, but then tomorrow someone else new is going to start, and then you're not the new person anymore, and you're probably going to be able to help them. And like we get it in Unit 3 a lot that we have a boxing class when there's a strength class, and a lot of the people in strength class are kind of into because they think they wouldn't be fit enough. But the boxers are too intimidated to do the strength class because they think they wouldn't be fit enough for that. And it's just, we build up these things in our mind, don't we? Like we think, oh God, I wouldn't be able, or I don't want to look stupid. No one gives a shit. Like no one gives a shit whatsoever. Like because everyone in the strength class is focusing on themselves and doing their own lifts, but they're not even looking at you and saying everyone that's out running is they're only trying to like get through their own run. They're not looking at you and judging you. Like so. I think just be vulnerable, put yourself out there and try new things was the kind of biggest takeaway.
Cool. I think that's an amazing point to make. Like even for people originally joining gyms, like I've heard from so many people over the course of the years, like, oh, I need to get fit before I join the gym.
We get that.
Probably coming back to that.
So much. Yeah. And it's like, I think you should know within 10 minutes, like if you go to that you need to get fit before going there, you're in the wrong gym, like, you know what I mean? Whereas I know that, like, I could send someone to you and you would mind them. You wouldn't do the session that you would do yourself with them on day one, like, you know what I mean? And look, hey, if they do, well, then you just know what gym not to go to anyway, and then it's a process of elimination, like, so. I think any gym that's in any way ethical and kind, will look after people, like, so. Yeah, they should definitely just jump at it.
Yeah. So Niall, just to wrap up, what does the future hold? So is the focus is there another challenge in mind, or are you focused on boxing and Unit 3? Or?
Yeah, I think Unit 3, look, the focus is just for everyone to stay safe during this point, I suppose, um, and just get back to work as quick as we can. Like, I just can't wait to get back into, I want to get back up at 5 o'clock in the morning to go into the sessions, and I want to be getting home at 10 o'clock at night after sessions. I can't wait for that again. Um, so yeah, I just want to get back to that, and then once that's back, so obviously I train Gary, so we want to win like some kind of a European title this year, and then hopefully win a world title within 2 years. Then I train another girl called Caitlin Phelan, so the goal will be for her to be world champion in 3 years as well. So, I want to train loads of world champions in boxing, and then just take the gym, just keep building it, and then I have a few little personal challenges, that I'm kind of looking at, but they're probably further down the line. They might involve mountains.
Cool. Well, listen, Niall, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. You've been very generous with your time.
No, thank you, man. I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. I will, for everyone who tuned in, thank you very much for watching. Share this with your friends, send it to your story. The link, I'll record this and post it on YouTube, and I'll send you the link then, so you can share it around if you like.
Cool.
Thanks again, man. Thanks very much for doing it.
Thanks, Matt. Thanks so much.
Chat soon. See you.
See you soon. Bye bye.